And so if 50% of your spend is going towards AppLovin, that means half of your revenue comes from AppLovin. How much better does level player AdMob have to be for you to take a 50% reduction to revenue?
The waterfall is dead. Long live the waterfall. Hello and welcome to Growth Masterminds, the podcast for growth marketers. My name is John Koetsier. On July 16th, Max will eliminate waterfall placements. Everything will be bidding. What's that mean? Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? What are the impacts? To chat, we have the co-founder and COO of Wildcard Games, Josh Chandley. Welcome, Josh.
Thank you for having me, John. How you doing?
Super pumped to have you. I'm doing well. We're close. We're actually close. You're in Seattle. I'm in Vancouver. We can literally drive to see each other. I might get arrested crossing the border, but who knows? We'll see. Let's talk about waterfalls. Maybe set the stage for us. What's going on?
Yeah, let's do it. So I think maybe a first step is, what the hell's a waterfall?
Yes.
What is real-time bidding? So taking a step back, ad monetization is a big complex beast. I have been in the product side doing ad monetization for even longer than I've been doing UA. I've been in UA for 12 years, and I've been in product and ad mon for 14 years. And so I've seen some pretty old setups. And one of the only things that predates me is waterfall mediation. So, so taking a step back, what is waterfall? There are these products called ad mediators, and they run auctions on behalf of mobile apps to ensure as much competition and ultimately like higher prices as much as possible. We rely on ad mediators because as game studios or app developers, whatever we're doing, we monetize with ads. The skill set to build a real-time ad auction are not the same as the skill sets to build a video game. It's incredibly difficult. There's like over 100 ad networks you need the ability to talk to, whether that's through an SDK integration or through an exchange. The complexity is incredible, and that means maintaining relationships and communications with all of those. We can't do that. We absolutely rely on a third party, and those are called ad mediators. And one interesting eccentricity of the mobile market is those people that run those auctions, they're also participants in the auction. The ad networks actually mediate for us, which is a very privileged position.
Yes,
and so there are two ways that we can run auctions. We don't actually pick either or, we always do both. But the old way is called waterfall. It allows us to shape demand very, very manually. And it literally is a waterfall. We call it waterfall because it is literally a reverse auction. Instead of someone saying, I'll bid 1, I'll bid 105, I'll bid 110. It's, hey, AdMob, will you pay 100 for this? No. Okay. Meta, 95? No. Okay. Iron Source, 92? No. AdMob, how about 91 this time? Yes. Okay. Show that ad. And that provided us the ability to enforce pricing really, really fast. And it gave us a very simple way to talk to those ad networks. Like there was no back and forth. There was, do you want this price? Yes or no. Very, very simple. And it allowed us to enforce pricing, but it's time consuming. It's ultimately, it was never very efficient. If every, hey, we buy for 100, no, takes 2 seconds or 1 second, including the ping. Yeah. And if you want to show an ad every minute, that means that if you can download the ad instantly, you can only have 60 options across all your ad networks. So it was limiting. What's become more popular very, very slowly, but really starting about 4 or 5 years ago, is real-time bidding. I believe it was first shipped by Mopub in 2018-ish. It's taken a while to catch on, but bidding is lightning fast. That is the party trick of bidding. Before, AdMob might say 100 no, 90 no, 80 no. all the way down to 10 yes. Now AdMob, Unity, Iron Source, everybody all at the same time just says, I think this is worth X. And whoever's X is bigger, they show the impression. So it's all one unified bid. And so the advantages of this is a huge speed and in theory more pricing, because if an ad network said no at 50 and their next option was 40, maybe they were willing to pay 45 and we just don't get that incremental $5. So in theory, bidding unlocks a lot of growth.
Yeah.
And that is kind of what bidding is.
Now, in theory, you say that unlocks a lot of monetization. That's a wonderful thing. That's under your control in the waterfall. You set the terms of the waterfall. It's very manual. It's very slow. It's kind of antiquated. There's a lot of issues with it on that part. When it goes to bidding, that happens off somewhere else. That happens in a black box. You don't see much of what happens there, do you?
No, we really can see who is responding. We can see the outcomes, but we can't see a lot of the auction rules. We can't see if the mediator, for instance, didn't listen to a response from one ad network because they were too slow. We didn't see how ties were broken. We didn't see a lot of intricacies, and it's much harder for us to visualize. We might be told, well, on average, you're making $20 per ad or $20 CPMs, but we can't see the distribution quite as well. And that creates a challenge. It really makes it harder. So now really all we do is we essentially are setting price floors in the mediation and then trying to add as much competition as possible. And that can be scary. Yeah.
How do you do that? How do you do that?
We literally, those A/B tests are run through the mediator. And so every single thing we do is run through the mediator when you do bidding. And so the power is quite consolidated. And I think that is why there is a lot of hesitancy about the adoption of bidding, because of the amount of power that gives the mediator. And so we're starting to see some things change. For instance, mediators are now extracting value from mediation for the first time. Waterfall bidding has always been free. If Unity bid, if Unity bids $20 on the waterfall and they win the bid, you get $20. Mediators like Max and Level Play are now charging 5% for real-time bidding. So if Unity bids $20, well, you get 19. And that is explicitly not explicit. It is not shown in the UI. You just see 19. You never know about that $20 bid. It's hidden from you. There is no transparency there.
So you don't know. It could have been a $30 bid.
In theory, it could have. Now, there is enough transparency that if we ask, we understand that there's a 5% fee. So for instance, AppLovin and Level Play both charge 5% as standard. And to some degree, that's fair, because when you buy through them direct, they're going to be charging 30% or more. If another DSP is buying through them and using their SDK, maybe they're paying more than 5%, less than 30. And then the SDK ad networks, where they have their own demand and they have their own supply, they're paying a smaller amount. But it's still a change in the balance of power, where the move to bidding has allowed those mediators to become critical infrastructure, where they are now like choke points, and they can charge for access in a way that wasn't possible before.
At least there's a number of them. We know that Max has dominant share, obviously. Is doing very well. Level Play, Unity wants to make that better, and hopefully that will. And maybe there'll be some others on there. We know Google's, lurking around the scene, still has a waterfall product, so that's still possible, but isn't such a big player, especially for the gaming sector. Have you done like an A/B test and taken a game and said, okay, we're only doing waterfall for this week or this month or this day or this hour. I don't know what test parameter you put around it. And we're only doing bidding for this chunk of time, and we're going to compare the results. Have you tried that and seen what happens to your revenue?
Yeah, we used to be able to do that. But with the changes, we are no longer able to. Max especially, so Wildcard uses Max Mediation. It's an incredibly powerful and effective tool, and we love using it. And they've been very, very aggressive about asking for that kind of power to be transferred over. As you've mentioned, on July 16th, they have announced they're dropping support for Waterfall for any ad network that supports bidding, which it is most of the essentially all the ad networks. They haven't been gentle about it. For instance,
It's
ad
a hard
units.
for a company. They're not gentle.
I mean, it's AppLovin. That's kind of their party piece. Is they've always been very willing to just say, "This is the future. We're all going to go do it now. Let's go," and you got to respect it. One of the most interesting things has been any ad units. So any basically thing you want to sell, basically like interstitials in this game, are now being blocked from running any A/B tests or making changes if one of those networks is still set to waterfall, even today. Time of recording is June 17th. It's not July 16th yet. But even though it is still being allowed to run in that waterfall instance, A/B tests and changes have been blocked. Like in the UI, you can no longer even save a change. And so what that means is we can't even A/B test and see, well, is this going to hurt us or help us? It's just changing. In the past, we could A/B test, and sometimes it was better and sometimes it was worse.
Yeah.
I mean, 5% isn't trivial. Sometimes it's more efficient to do it the old reliable free way, and sometimes it's more efficient to go hard.
And that could vary by game as well, and vary by placement. And
Definitely.
how often you need to request to have a new placement, how long your core loop goes, all those different things. There are many factors here. And I understand you're in business with a lot of these players, so you can't say everything that you maybe think, and that's 100% fine. So do what you need to do to do right by your partners as well. But it would piss me off to not be able to A/B test.
Yeah, it's inconvenience. Now, that's probably would have been a very large complaint generation machine for Max, where if you're taking away an option and then we can show with data that it's better or worse, every client that where it's worse, that would have been quite a complaint generation machine. So I get it. But I also
and
get
I will
we have to
take your
move
earlier
first.
point as well. Your earlier point is that sometimes you test it as better, and sometimes you test it as worse. And is there really a way to know 100% of the time that one is better and one is worse? That's a valid question. I'm not sure there's a good answer to it.
There's not. But I think that while we have seen that in general, real-time bidding has simplified things for ad mon teams, and it has allowed us to focus on new ways of generating value. I haven't personally seen a massive improvement in our CPMs or our revenue from real-time bidding. I've seen a simplification in our processes, but this theoretical incremental revenue hasn't appeared for us yet. Which means that, well, it means one of two things. It means either ad quality in games or demand for mobile games has dropped, or those ad networks who are now bidding or are mediating the bids are extracting more margin. And all the incremental gain has gone straight to them as margin, and what's coming out to the game studios is the same. So
that's a super valid point that you just made, because the world is always changing, right? And so we had obviously the spikes of COVID, and that's gone away. And we've had all kinds of economic and political turmoil over the past 6 months or so, and so we've seen CPMs decrease. But there's as economists would say, there's a secular reason for that, right? There's a wider reason for that. So it's really hard for you to. There's no apple to apple comparison there.
Yeah, it's impossible. And even one other major shift, and it's definitely not secular, but it's the domination of AppLovin. They have performed so incredibly well they have earned so much of our share of voice through like their execution that kind of tilts the balance as well. When one party owns like more than 50% of revenue at times, in some instances, that throws things off too. So it's really, really hard to understand the net effect of a lot of these things.
It's really interesting because there are some other players, you've mentioned Level Play, and as a publisher, you would want to have transparency. Okay, here's the auction, here's the result, here's the bids, here's the players, and here's the winning bid, and here's the percentage that we're taking from that. And you would think that there would be a competitive advantage for somebody to say, you know what, we'll provide full transparency. No, nobody's doing it.
Literally worthless compared to what AppLovin's offering you. I think the AppLovin has achieved incredible lock-in, and there's a reason why Level Play and Ad Mediation, both of which have fantastic bidding products, both of which have there's fantastic mediation products overall. There's a reason why AppLovin has performed so well, and it's not because they're just massively higher CPMs. It's a bit more complicated than that. Can I take you down like a weird ad tech rabbit hole for a second?
Go.
Okay, let's fucking do it. So mediation is no longer about ad monetization. It's about user acquisition. When you mediate with Max, what you will notice very quickly is that the large bulk of your UA spend goes to AppLovin's app discovery products. The big one is called App Discovery Ad ROAS. And so it uses Max to directly feed app discovery and give you incredible targeting. And considering the fact that at times in certain like subgenres, AppLovin is well over 50% share of voice, you really, really want that. And if you move away from AppLovin, you by rule lose access to that UA source. And so if you are 50% of your spend is going towards AppLovin, that means half of your revenue comes from AppLovin. How much better does Level Play or AdMob have to be for you to take a 50% reduction to revenue, like on a 50% reduction to players? You can't.
You can't.
And so ad mediation has no longer become about ad monetization. It's become a UA play. Which inventory are you hooking into? Because when you pick a mediator like Level Play or like Max, what you're actually doing is you're saying, do you want to supercharge Unity Grow, or do you want to supercharge AppLovin App Discovery? Because whoever you pick is going to do a lot better because of the data quality that you've given them. And because AppLovin is so just tremendously large, doubling their effectiveness is always going to be more impactful than doubling anybody else.
It's a wonderful place to be in the market. Right? You can see both sides. You can see the acquisition side, the spend side. You can see the monetization side, the revenue side, right? And so you know how to set prices. You know what things are worth because you know what people will bid. And so you ought to be able to extract the maximum amount of value from it.
Yeah. And it's all first-party data. There's no other device or anybody else's servers that it touches. It's just all yours. So it's nice and clean.
Okay. We'll come out of the rabbit hole for a moment and we'll look at the big picture again. So publishers are losing the ability to control their own fate, but they're gaining simplicity in operations and possibly gaining revenue. Who knows? We don't know. We can't really test A/B against this or not. As you look forward as a games publisher, what's your best path forward? Suck it up and play with the big boys, or what do you do?
I mean, to some degree, yeah. We're being told to focus elsewhere. So maybe less suck it up and be grumpy and more of, okay, so they were providing the infrastructure before and we were managing it. And now they're providing the infrastructure and they're managing a lot of it. Maybe they aren't taking a little bit more of the value out of the equation to compensate for that value that they're creating. Cool. But that allows us to focus elsewhere. And I think that there are 3 kind of high level areas where ad teams are starting to really invest in, that I think is possibly more, each individual one of these is probably or possibly more valuable than the auction itself. The first one is segmentation. Working much more closely with product to understand who do we show ads to, who do we not show ads to, who sees a lot of ads, who sees few ads, who do we give an IAP offer to, and who gets the rewarded video offer. I'm seeing some companies test for some segments. Once you dismiss a rewarded video, show them interstitial back to back and see if we can make them watch too. Really understanding who are your players, what kind of, and then within your player base, how are they different and what should their ad experience be? The benefit of real-time bidding means you can show a lot of ads really, really fast, or you can show ads much more slowly. You get agility to do whatever you want from that simplicity. And so the ability to segment and customize and personalize is extremely good.
Nice.
Then in general, managing overall ad frequency and loads, it's interrelated with segmentation, but at a high level, where and how frequently are you showing ads? What kind of ads are you showing? Are you including banners? Are you not including banners? These are all really material. And then
number 1 is segmentation. Number 2 is ad load.
Ad frequency and ad load. Yeah, the overall ad experience. So one is how you segment and how you split people into groups. 2 is the actual ad experience, the frequency, the load, the type. And then finally, it's understanding who participates in your auction. This is a much more open-ended question now with bidding, because in theory, not in reality, but in theory, you can have infinity ad SDKs now in your game, all bidding, because before you had to say, do you want it? No, do you want it? Now everyone submits a bid at once. So in theory, there is no incremental cost to adding 5 or 10 or even 12 more ad SDKs. Your production team will disagree because they have to support the SDKs. But I think in general, this opens up the ecosystem to having a lot more direct SDK connections, which means a lot more business relationships.
Very, very, very cool. Awesome. I'm going to throw a little bit of a left curve at you and open up a related but different topic. Okay, we talked about monetization. We talked about love to bidding. We talked about what that means. And you said, here's 3 things you can do with your newfound time. You're not working on the waterfall. There's 3 things you can do to, focus on maximizing your revenue. And there's bigger upside in that than there was in having the waterfall. Okay, great. Excellent. What about audiences for ads in games? We've been so focused for years that the ads in mobile games are for other mobile games. And we're starting to see brand, e-commerce, other things like that come in. And we've had the big noise from AppLovin for like half a year. We've cracked e-commerce, we've cracked retail. We know how to apply the same, methods that we've done with mobile gaming. We haven't really seen that yet, but maybe it's coming. Do you think that there's an opportunity to open up the ad load that we have in mobile games to a broader audience of advertisers?
Absolutely. One of the last auction things that we're able to test substantially is the CPM floor, is the minimum price we'll take. The reason that's impactful is because we got a lot of ads just bouncing off of those floors right now. There's a lot of ads that we're selling, and it's mostly just it's not the current participants in the auction aren't finding value in those ads compared to the others. So yeah, there's a lot of value sitting on the floor right now to be picked up. Just because it isn't the right time to show somebody a video game ad does not mean that person doesn't buy soap.
Yeah, exactly.
Or cosmetics. In fact, even a whale in a game, someone that spends $500 a month, let's say, in games, I bet you there's a moment when that whale stops being a whale. If he just spent $100 in a game, is he going to install your game and play right now? No. But if he spent $100 in a game, does that mean he or she no longer wants to make an online purchase of something that they already are passionate about? It's unrelated.
Yeah.
So because that demand is totally different, I think it's truly incremental.
Yeah.
The challenge that we have is simply that our context is so different.
Yeah.
Things like e-com, they work incredibly well on Google. They work incredibly well on Meta. We're not scrolling, with mobile games. It's a much more engaged experience. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of e-com products over the next 6 to 12 months start to win out.
Yep.
And how the ad experiences change. Because right now, I would say in mobile games, especially like whether you're talking about being sold through Google Ads or AppLovin or even brand through companies like Mobile Fuse, the ad experience is still not as engaging and performant and specialized for this like 30-second view and then a playable experience as the games are. And so I think the e-com advertisers need to learn and have time to really master our inventory type. And so there's still a lot of growth to happen.
I think that is super interesting because if I look at the ads I get when I play my favorite games, and I look at the ads I get when I go on Instagram or if I go on Google or other places, vastly different. Facebook as well, right? Vastly different. And there's value that advertisers are seeing in me on some platforms that it's not being captured in mobile games. That's a problem because, of course, there's privacy and there's targeting issues. There's IDFA issues on iOS and other things like that. But if we can solve just some of those and build some more interesting ad units that are a little playable, even if it's like, get on a vacation. What do you want? Some sliders. Do you want beach? Do you want mountain? Do you want whatever, right? Have some sliders and there you go. Boom. That would be cool. And there'd be tens, hundreds of billions of dollars. Maybe hundreds is a lot, but at least tens of billions of dollars of extra revenue that could flow into mobile gaming.
I strongly agree, because you're talking about like you open Instagram and you see one ad and then you move over to play your game. You see another ad. It's like, hey, I'm on the same couch. It's still 5:30 p.m. I'm the same dude. I literally just flipped apps and you're telling me that one inventory type has stopped working that was working 10 seconds ago. Like fundamentally, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yep.
That's like a hypothesis people have. Of course, it's incremental. Of course, it makes sense. When we can crack that, it's going to be hugely valuable. It just takes time. These are really hard problems.
Yep.
A lot of those ads that we see on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, they're all designed to say, hey, just stop scrolling for 1 second. Whereas on AppLovin, when you're buying, when e-com buyers are buying, they're like, no, you get a 30-second infomercial and then a customized experience afterwards.
Which is a powerful experience.
That's a big difference. Yeah. One ad is probably worth a lot more now.
Yes, exactly. Wow. If we can crack this, there's a big, big opportunity. Josh, I want to thank you for taking this time. It's been super interesting, super fun. Kind of,
thank you so much.
Layers a little bit, look inside the engines that govern our world and see what opportunities might be. I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, John.